arising? None whatsoever. Someone prepared to make a motion. Councillor Firth?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that council gives first reading to long-term borrowing, the Meadows of Tabor Manufactured Housing Project Bylaw 15-2021.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. On to action items. Item number 6.1, Seniors Week 2021 Community Declaration. Mr. Orwa.
Yes, His Worship, I would call upon Ms. Vanham to present this one to council, please.
All right, thank you. Ms. Van Ham?
Thank you, Mr. Orwa, and good afternoon, Council. So you have in front of you a consideration for Council to declare Seniors Week. This is something that has been done in the past to celebrate the seniors throughout the province. So the consideration for the dates are June the 7th to the 13th in the town of Tabor. So I'm available if you have any questions. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any questions whatsoever? Councillor Beckering?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a comment, it's about time us seniors were celebrated.
Thank you, Councillor Beckering. All right, any other questions arising? Someone prepared to make a motion? Councillor Garner?
Mr. Mayor, I can make that motion. The council, in honor of the past, present, and future contributions of the seniors of this community and throughout Alberta, hereby declares June 7th through the 13th, 2021 to be Seniors Week in the town of Tabor.
All right, thank you. Councillor Beckering, you had a question also? Okay, thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Item number 6.2, destruction of municipal documents. Mr. Orwa.
Yes, I would call upon Ms. Donna Weiss to present this one to council.
All right,
Proceed,
thank you.
please.
Ms. Weiss.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Administration is just looking to get rid of a whole lot of years of payroll documents that have been stored in the basement.
All right.
We're keeping all the personnel files, but they're like timesheets, financial postings, like all that kind of stuff that no one, I don't think, has looked at since I've been here.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you. Any questions arising? Someone prepared to make a motion. Councillor Firth?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, there's many years. I move that council approves the destruction of municipal payroll documents identified in the attached list per the retention period in years identified in Schedule A of the bylaw number 10-99, retention of municipal documents.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. Councillor Beckering?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I see it goes back to 1970, some of this stuff. Is there a requirement to keep some of this stuff for a length of time? I don't know.
Well, it says that actually the schedule says all payroll records are 7 years, and then part-time employee records are only 1, and full-time employee records are 10. I think there's just been some people are of the thought that all payroll records should be kept permanently. Maybe the personnel files, but I can't see the rest of it. So I think it's just been left as saying it's payroll, leave it alone.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Right, thank you. Mr. Orwa?
Just to add to what has been asked. So we looked at it very carefully to make sure that we follow the rules and regulations because payroll is very sensitive. And I know there are a number of things that have been requested here in the past, and we made sure that all those personnel files and everything that might be called for in the future are retained. So I went in from 1963, that's what has been sitting down there. So I've been going through with my team since 1963 to make sure that the things that are not required should not be in there, and make sure that we retain any employee file or anything that might be called for. So there was a lot of work behind the scenes to ensure that we identify what is required by law and what is not required by law. That's how those things ended up being on that list.
All right, thank you. All right, motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, on to item 6.3, standing item, council requests. Mr. Orwa.
Yes, His Worship. So this is an opportunity for council to give administration any direction. And before that, I just want to look at what we have right now. I think there are only 4 items outstanding at this time. The first and the second one are to do with Japan. And then the third one is to do with the Kiwanis. I'm not sure whether Mr. Shea, you have any update for council?
I've been in contact with the Kiwanis Group. They plan on coming to council first meeting in June to have their presentations for council to review, and hopefully we can get that project going.
All right, thank you.
So with that update, the next one is just to do with the CAO, and that will be addressed tonight by council.
All right, perfect, thank you. Any new standing item requests? Councillor Bruin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just like to bring council's attention to the crosswalk at Westview Boulevard and 50th. I was wondering if that's been considered for pedestrian lights.
All right.
Especially since we're getting that new park being built out that way. There's all kids riding.
All right.
through there.
Thank you, Mr. Roy. Oh, right, sorry, is it? I could hear you fine, but yeah, I guess it is off, so. That's right, yeah. Okay, sorry, go ahead again,
I
Councillor
would
Bruin.
just like to ask the council to take into consideration putting crosswalk, pedestrian crosswalk flashing lights at 50th and Westview Boulevard, Westview Gate Boulevard. A lot of children are crossing there. The new park's going to be built there soon, our playground, and I think it would be a good thing to have
You
there.
just like that added to the next
If we
traffic
could,
committee
and
meeting?
give some,
Is a request?
yes, please.
All right, Mr. Orwa, that can be done all right with that ask from Councillor Bruin? Or does we need that actual motion for that as well?
Mr. Shea, do you want to add to anything to the request?
Just want to make sure we get it clear. It's what we wanted to come next traffic committee meeting for review, and then come to council once the committees come with a recommendation.
Or just at least bring it to attention of the traffic committee.
Yep.
Because it is getting quite busy.
Yes, we can do that.
All right, thank you, Councillor Chavez.
Yes, Your Worship, it's not a request. I just want to update council on what's been happening at the golf course. The Tabor Golf Course raised, volunteers raised $15,000. And on Friday, they had a couple dozen volunteers out there and they planted 150 trees. So they're really working hard at upgrading that course and making it look good. And we just need a bouquet to all those that donated and all those that were out there, planting trees. Again, volunteers in this community are just second to none for what they come forth and what they do. So just a good bouquet to all those.
Oh, great.
people.
Thank you very much, Councillor Chavez, for that. That's always great to upgrade and help with the course beautification, et cetera, but might be detrimental to your scores though in some cases with trees being a magnet, correct?
Let's not go there.
All right, thank you. Thanks again for that update. Any other standing item requests? All right, thank you. With that, we don't need a motion. Is there nothing new on the table other than information? So with that, I would ask to move into closed session, please. Councillor Beckering,
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Also move.
motion on the table. All in favor? Thank you. Carried unanimously. All right, thank you. All right, if we could reconvene the meeting into open session, please. And item 7, delegations, item 7.1, St. Mary's Schools micro apiary request, Mr. Orwa.
Yes, His Worship. So there's a request here coming in from St. Mary's School. And I think we do have Mr. De Jong on the line. Can you hear me?
I can. Can you hear me?
Thank you very much.
Mr.
And,
De Jong, welcome.
I think there's
Thank you.
some request for amendments here to be changed, especially on our exotic animal bylaw. And I think I don't want to steal Mr. De Jong's thunder. So just go ahead and present your request to council.
All right, Mr.
Very
De Jong,
good,
go
thank
ahead,
you.
please.
Oh, thank you very much. I don't want to extend your meeting any longer than it needs to, so I very much appreciate you guys offering me the time this evening. I was intent on being there in person along with another teacher, but we have since been quarantined, so we are beamed in. A sign of the times, I suppose. So with regards to the apiary, basically what we're looking at here, proposing is creating a micro apiary on the grounds of St. Mary's to offer educational experiences with bees and to align curricularly with the sort of agri-foods outcomes, the enterprise and innovations outcomes, as well as some of the biology outcomes in the Alberta curriculum. The intent is to have 2 operating micro hives on the premises and to allow students to interact with the bees and to understand the business of beekeeping. The sort of motivation behind it came from an option we had offered in our junior high courses that was fairly popular. It was called, under the Career and Technology Foundations, it was called the Secret Life of Bees, I believe it was entitled. And essentially, students got to look at how bees worked, how they impacted the environment, how people can keep bees. And so that ran for about 3 weeks in a junior high option course. And from that interest point, we were hoping to establish an actual apiary. We do a really good job, I think, in education, but specifically at St. Mary's, of taking care of the trades through the RAP program and the shop. We do a good job with all of the academics, especially the sciences, but I find it's difficult to tap into the agriculture industry, especially because it's so expensive and hard to maintain animals and these types of things. So bees sort of offer that opportunity. And I think ultimately it's just something that students can anticipate a little more excitement in their courses, get hands-on and sort of understand those rhythms of nature and the science in person. So that's kind of the proposition. We'd be looking to set it up for next school year and proceed from there.
All right, thank you. Any questions arising? Councillor Beckering.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. To Mr. De Jong, I know that 2 hives will probably be inhabited by thousands and thousands of bees. And if I know anything about bees, which I do, they will not be stay confined to the St. Mary's School grounds. So my point is, have you canvassed any neighbors to the school regarding their opinion regarding hives on school property?
Thanks, Garth. We haven't canvassed anyone yet. We were mostly looking at the sort of go ahead or these types of the answer is we haven't canvassed anyone. We aren't looking at thousands and thousands of bees. We're looking at sort of a micro setup. The hives we're looking at are called flow hives, and they're about $500 each.
All right, thank you, Councillor Stravas.
Yes, Your Worship, Councillor Beckering asked the question already whether the neighbors were consulted at all. And I think that should be one of your first steps to crossing this boundary, because I kind of like the idea, but I think you really need to talk to the neighbors before we start going down the path of changing the bylaws and whatnot in town to see what kind of reaction you get from your neighbors there. I would like to see some of that due diligence done first. And just in follow-up of how many bees would be in one hive?
My understanding is that they can hold up to 500, 300 to 500.
So we're looking about 1,000 bees then. Good, thank you.
All right, thank you, Councillor Firth.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I had a chance to look at the flow hives online. I did some research. They certainly look very interesting. My question to Mr. De Jong is, do you have any concerns with safety or allergies?
Yep, so with regards to safety in general, as per our insurers who are part of, so the Holy Spirit Catholic Schools insurers are USIC, and that is an urban consortium of school boards, and we belong to that courtesy of our ties to Lethbridge. And so the USIC insurer has already insured a number of beehives in Calgary, I believe, in schools. And so really it's just a matter of due diligence with regards to meeting the safety requirements. They've had, I don't believe they've had any incidents that have required the insurers to get involved in the Calgary hives. But with regards to safety, all of the safety requirements are in the handout, as well as advertising where the apiary would be. And in this case, it would be within our outdoor classroom. So converting the outdoor classroom into the apiary, which would meet all of the location needs of the insurers.
All right, thank you. Councillor Bruin?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. DeJong, have you approached the Sorry, these mics. Thank you for your presentation there. Have you approached the MD about putting it perhaps in the rural setting instead of in urban? Because I've had some dealings with beehives, and if you have flowers on your decks and things like that, they're going to be coming over, visiting your barbecue and whatnot. But I like your idea. I think it'd be very educational, but I'd prefer it in a rural setting.
No, we have not reached out to the MD on that. I suppose our first stop would be keeping it as close to home as possible. The other issue then becomes transportation and all the fees associated with that. So primarily, we'd like to have it on our grounds. I guess the benefits would, educationally speaking, would outweigh it. I mean, swarmings aren't overly common. All of those concerns. Stings, I suppose, do happen. I think we dealt with 2 wasp bites this year on our school. So it's really just a matter of due diligence in terms of insurance. On that end.
All right, thank you, Mr. DeJong. I like the educational component about the possibilities there. I think that's got some great potential. And obviously, as was indicated, it's happened elsewhere in some other schools. I just had a question locally. Has this been brought up through the school board at all, as far as any potential of this, that this may happen? And if so, what might their reaction be?
The school board was wholly supportive of it. If they weren't, they wouldn't have brought it to the insurers, but our chief accountants and lawyers were all very excited about the potentiality.
All right, great, thank you. Any other questions arising? All right, thank you again once so much for your presentation. Appreciate your time tonight.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a good evening, guys.
Thank you, you as well. All right, any other discussion? Councillor Garner?
My father used to have 3 beehives. Why in the world he ever did that? He used to work for the MD as an accountant, but yet he liked to dabble with beehives. I don't know why, but on occasion I would go with him, and it wasn't a very pleasant experience most of the time because of my youthfulness and rambunctiousness, and I didn't have the right temperament, and it wasn't a good experience most of the time. The other thing I struggle with is when we have bylaws and it specifically names bees under 3.45 of 3.0, then I don't know that it's wise, because if we set this up here, I know it's an educational thing and all this kind of stuff, but what about the neighbors? How are they going to do that? How are they going to feel about it? The other thing is, once we set a precedent doing this, what if somebody wants to do that in their own backyard? They say, well, St. Mary's has that going. I want to have a couple hives in my backyard too.
All right, thank you, Councillor Firth.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. With respect, I think that there is a big difference between having beehives in a house or a backyard versus the schoolyard. St. Mary's certainly has much more space, and to me, I did have some concerns, but I know that insurers are extremely reluctant to give the go-ahead if there's anything that they see with any sort of risk involved. So to me, the fact that the school board's insurers are prepared to go ahead with that, to me says that they have mitigated all of the risks to the best of their ability. So I would be in favor of this.
All right, thank you, Councillor Chavas.
Yes, this does have an educational component to it. I mean, we are an agricultural community. Agriculture is all around us. Matter of fact, there's some people that just live on the edge of town that have beehives, not in their yard, but just outside their yard, and produce a fair amount of honey every year. So I'd be in favor of this, but I would like to see this individual contact to the neighbors, talk to all the neighbors in the area, get feedback from them, see how many people are in favor or against it before we proceed any further. That would be my direction on this here.
All right, thank you. And I would agree, that's important. That was a good question there, and you had a good answer, honest answer. And same as something, he did answer about the school board question I had, but not that I'm in disbelief of anything Mr. DeJong had to say, but I think we probably would need something on paper to say the school board is actually supportive of that as well. Would be helpful from the town of Tabor perspective and the legal possibility with that side as well. So that would be my suggestion and our direction, potentially supporting this going forward. Councillor Bruin?
If we go forward with this and we have a nearby neighbor that's having a bee problem, how do we address that? And if they do swarm, I've seen them swarm. I've actually had to have beehives moved from one of our yards because a person in the household was allergic to bees. So we're taking a liability risk ourselves, I think. But I think it should stay in the country. I think it's great education, but I think it should be in the country.
All right, thank you. Any other questions or comments? Councillor Bruin?
No, sorry.
All right. Any other questions or comments? All right, someone prepared to make a motion? Councillor Firth?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would move that council request administration to undertake a review of the exotic animal bylaw 9-2020 to bring back amendments for council's further consideration of educational program apiaries within the town of Tabor. And also to add that St. Mary's School, or taking into consideration St. Mary's School canvassing their neighbors.
All right, thank you. Councillor Chavas?
I was just going to add that canvas on there, so she's got it covered, so good job. I'll support that.
All right, just a friendly amendment ask and or suggestion related to the school board clarification. Would that be acceptable as well for you?
Certainly, I would accept that friendly amendment.
All right, thank you. All right, friendly amended motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. All right, we are on to item number 8, media inquiries. Mr. Orwa?
No media inquiries today.
All right, thank you, Mr. Orwa. All right, with that, I would ask for motion to move into closed session, please. Motion on, sorry, Councillor Bruin?
Move that we move into closed session.
Motion on the table. All in favor? Carried now. Great. Thank you.